My daughter got married without telling me, and her stepfather walked her down the aisle. But now she needs my help, because her mother passed away, and her stepfather is no longer with us. I'm a 51-year-old man. My daughter is 24. I haven't been part of her life since she was about 13. Not by choice. Her mother, Carla, made sure of that. We got divorced when Maddie was 11, and from that moment on, it felt like I was watching my own daughter turn against me in real time. And there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. After we separated, Carla used every legal trick in the book: full custody, supervised visits, false accusations about my temper, lies in court. You name it, she did it. I spent 5 years trying to have some kind of contact with my daughter. Birthdays, parties, just a few hours on a weekend, would have settled for anything. Every time I got a little closer, Carla would file a new lawsuit or stir things up just enough for Maddie to stop talking to me again. I kept showing up for a while. I vividly remember one Christmas. I had bought her a necklace. I drove to Carla's house just to try and give it to her in person. Not long after, the police were at my door, because of yet another lie Carla had told. That was my last attempt to break through that wall. After that, I stopped fighting a system that had already decided I didn't matter. Carla married a man named Dennis when Maddie was around 14 or 15. He was a successful contractor, built houses, drove a big truck, loved sports, basically, the walking stereotype of the perfect dad according to Pinterest. From what I heard, he spoiled Maddie: trips, expensive guitars, front-row concert tickets. He filled the space I wasn't allowed to be in. Eventually, Maddie took his last name. I didn't hear it from her. I saw it in a post she was tagged in: first name, Dennis's surname. I moved. Got a quiet job. Focused on my own life. Stayed completely out of the picture for a decade. About 2 years ago, someone showed me photos from her wedding, taken from her profile. I hadn't seen her in years. And there she was, walking down the aisle with Dennis on her arm. The caption said, "Maddie and her dad." Finally, the big day. Now fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I got a text from an unknown number. It just said, "Can we talk?" I ignored it. A day later, another message came in: "It's Maddie." She finally sent a longer one. She said her mother had died of cancer. Apparently, it had been a long battle. I had no idea she'd been sick. She also said Dennis had taken his own life just 1 week after Carla's death. She said she didn't know who else to turn to, that she was overwhelmed with funeral planning, legal matters, inheritance issues, and that she needed help. She wasn't asking for money, at least not yet, but I could feel it heading in that direction. It wasn't an emotional reunion. It wasn't, "I'm sorry for pushing you away," or "I want to reconnect." It was pure logistics. "Can you help with the inheritance stuff? Do you know anything about probate? I think some of it might fall under next of kin laws." After 10 years of hearing, directly and indirectly, that I didn't exist, that I wasn't needed, that I wasn't a father, now, suddenly, she wanted to act like we had some kind of bond. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I just left it there. And I thought about it every night for a week. I had already grieved the loss of my daughter years ago, when I found out she changed her last name, when the police were sent because I tried to bring her a necklace, when I watched her pretend I was dead. And now I'm supposed to come back and clean up the emotional and legal mess those two left behind? I still haven't said anything. I don't know if I will. Part of me just wants to delete the messages and go on like nothing ever happened. Another part thinks maybe I should reply, not to reconcile, just to tell her never to contact me again and close this chapter on my own terms. So yeah, that's where I'm at. The daughter who pushed me out and replaced me is now asking me to help clean up the mess from the life she chose. Update 1. After I made the original post, I didn't reply to her messages. I realized that even giving a half-hearted response would turn into way more than I was willing to deal with. No. This isn't my family. So I don't have to help with any of this. I thought that would be the end of it. But 3 days later, my sister showed up at my house, not alone. She brought some store-bought muffins and a face that said, "We need to have a very serious talk." I already knew where it was going. She jumped right in with, "She's still your daughter, and you have no idea what she's been through." No. I don't. Because that person is not my daughter. And I haven't heard a word from her in years, all by choice, her mother's and apparently her own. After I didn't respond, Maddie started going through her contacts and got in touch with my sister. I don't even know how she got her number. Maybe she found my sister's number among her mother's things, or maybe not, I don't know. According to my sister, Maddie was on the verge of a breakdown, completely lost after Dennis's death. She said Maddie had no one left. I asked why she didn't go to Dennis's family for help, which, to me, made more sense than reaching out to me. And this is where the story gets even more interesting, and more revealing about who Maddie is today. Apparently, Maddie had burned a lot of bridges recently. She wasn't a good person. Carla's family had always been somewhat distant, but even those who showed up during Carla's illness ended up leaving angry. Maddie had kept Carla's illness a secret until the very end. Carla had been battling cancer for over a year, and Maddie didn't tell anyone until the final weeks. No one got a chance to say goodbye. Worse, while Carla was still alive, Maddie sold her grandmother's house, Carla's mother's home, behind everyone's back. The house had been in the family for 3 generations. Supposedly, it was in Maddie's name, but with the understanding that she wouldn't sell it, that she'd preserve it as a piece of family legacy. Maddie went ahead and put it on the market anyway, while Carla was in hospice care. I don't know why she did it, but the family lost it and cut her off completely. Then there's Dennis's family, and that part gets even worse. Dennis had 2 adult children from a previous marriage, and they had been in conflict with Maddie for months. They didn't like how Carla and Maddie had manipulated Dennis. They said he was isolated toward the end, that he hadn't seen his grandchildren in over a year. There was already tension building long before Carla passed, and Dennis's death made everything explode. Now Dennis's eldest son is threatening to sue Maddie, claiming she manipulated Dennis into making financial decisions while he was emotionally vulnerable. He says Dennis had been trying to update his will to remove Maddie completely but didn't manage to file the paperwork before his death. And now Maddie wants to keep everything. So now she's alone. The rest of the family won't speak to her. And she's turning to the one person she publicly erased from her life, me. I asked my sister point blank, "If you know all of this, why on earth should I get involved after everything?" Her answer? "Because you're her real father. And I think you're the only one who can help her." I had to laugh at that. Since when? Not when I was in court every month fighting for visitation. Not when I was served legal notices just for trying to leave her gifts. Not when I saw a photo of Dennis walking her down the aisle, with a caption saying he was her dad. My sister started in with, "Maybe this is your chance to make things right." She was just a kid. She didn't know what she was doing back then. But she wasn't a kid forever. That ended a long time ago. Maddie is an adult. She made adult choices. She pushed people away. She kept important things from her family. Now that her safety net is gone, she's desperate. And let's be honest, she didn't come looking for me because she missed me. She reached out because she's overwhelmed and doesn't want to face this alone. When my sister saw I wasn't budging an inch, she got frustrated. She said Maddie was going to fall apart and that I'd regret it if something happened to her. But I can't regret something when, in my mind, she isn't my daughter anymore. After my sister left, I got another message, this time a voicemail from Maddie. Her tone had changed. She sounded angry. She said something like, "Fine, stay out of it, like you always have. Just so you know, I'm going to tell everyone you left me to drown." So now we've reached that stage. Guilt-tripping. Painting me as the absent father all over again. Like I haven't already lived through that script. I haven't responded. I don't plan to. For now, I've blocked her number. If she wants anything from me, she can go through a lawyer, just like her mother used to. I already lost a decade with this girl. I'm not giving away another one just because her life plan fell apart. Update 2. I thought that after the voicemail and blocking her number, things would settle down. I figured she'd move on and find someone else who still pitied her. What I didn't expect was to be dragged into this mess through the back door, legally. About a week and a half after I spoke with my sister, I got a letter in the mail. At first, I thought it was junk, one of those fake legal notices meant to scare you into calling some scam number. But it wasn't. The more I read, the more I realized it was real. It was a formal court summons. I was being called in to testify. Turns out, Dennis's older children kept their word. They're suing over his estate, mostly for assets, account access, and a change in the beneficiary on one of his life insurance policies that, interestingly enough, was made just 3 weeks before his death. Their lawyer filed a lawsuit claiming emotional coercion and undue influence. And right in the middle of the documents was my name. I called my lawyer immediately. We reviewed everything together. That's when we discovered Maddie had submitted a sworn statement saying we had reconnected in the months before Dennis's death, and that I had helped her emotionally process the loss of 2 parental figures. The problem, besides it being a complete lie, is that she was dragging me into a legal mess I had nothing to do with. Dennis's kids were suing, and now they believed I might have been involved in the shady things Maddie had done. I hadn't spoken to her in over a decade until she messaged me after Carla died. I had no choice but to respond. My lawyer filed a motion to correct the record and a formal statement denying any involvement. We attached screenshots of the texts she sent me, phone records showing blocked calls, and confirmation that I never signed anything or participated in any conversation regarding Dennis, his estate, or anything financial. Even so, that didn't change the fact that my name was now part of the case. Because Maddie had used me as part of her defense, the court scheduled a civil deposition and summoned me to appear. I'm not a defendant. But I'm in it now. But now, I was considered a material witness. That meant I had to be involved in all of this, whether I liked it or not. I attended the deposition. Luckily, it was virtual, but still incredibly uncomfortable. Maddie wasn't on camera, but both of Dennis's adult sons were. Their attorney asked direct questions. How long had I been back in Maddie's life? What kind of role had I played? Had I ever spoken with her about Dennis or his mental state? Had she ever expressed feeling overwhelmed or said she needed help? My answers were all the same. I was not involved. I didn't offer help. I wasn't present. That's when the real story began to emerge. Dennis's son said they had been excluded from his life for over a year. Maddie and Carla, it seemed, had taken full control of his communications, phone, email, messages, even his access to his grandchildren. The son said that near the end, Dennis had started behaving strangely. He became withdrawn, paranoid from feeling manipulated, and he had even spoken to a lawyer about making changes to his will. But then Carla's condition worsened. According to messages they had recovered, she accused Dennis of being senile. She told him she would leave him if he tried to sabotage Maddie's future. She even threatened to reveal personal details from his past if he went through with the changes. Those documents were never finalized. Dennis died before they could be submitted. And now Maddie is trying to claim everything, based on a version of events no one else supports. I think she felt alone, because she is. And she hoped I would help pull her out of the legal mess. I don't understand why she claimed we had reconnected before Dennis died. Maybe she used it to scare her stepbrothers. Or maybe something else, I don't know. But now I'm stuck in this mess. I've had to take time off work, submit paperwork, and spend money just to clean up a lie I never asked to be part of. I don't feel sorry for her. I feel used. She buried me in her past, and now she's trying to use my name while pocketing money that doesn't even belong to her. I've said what I had to say under oath. And that's the end of it. Update 3. It's been about 2.5 months since the legal deposition. Since then, nothing. I figured that would be the end of it, at least for me. I did what I had to do. I cleared my name legally. I stayed out of it. I moved on. I didn't expect her to come back. And I definitely didn't expect it to happen the way it did. I work in logistics at a company. It's a good fit for my skill set, and I've worked there long enough to have a solid position. I keep my personal life private. Mostly because there's not much to share. People know I have a daughter I don't speak to, but no one really digs further than that. A week ago, I was in a morning meeting when I got called over the intercom to come down to reception. That's not typical. I assumed it was HR, or maybe something to do with my car in the parking lot. When I walked out front, I froze. Sitting in the lobby, holding a baby in her arms, was Maddie. Before I could say a single word, the receptionist smiled and said, "She said she's your daughter and wanted to surprise you." She thought it was sweet, because she didn't know the whole story. Maddie smiled at me and said she had brought my granddaughter to meet me. I asked her what she was really doing there. She started talking as if everything between us was fine. She said she thought maybe it was time her daughter had a real grandfather in her life. I told her this wasn't the place for any of that, and that I had to get back to work. She didn't flinch. She kept trying to talk. I told her again, directly, that I wasn't going to play the role of family now, and that she should never show up at my workplace again. I turned around and walked back upstairs. By lunchtime, half the building already knew. People started coming up to me asking if that was my daughter, what the story was, why she had a baby, and whether I was really a grandfather now. One guy even made a joke about how sweet it was that she brought the baby to visit. I shut it down immediately. I told them it was personal, and politely asked them to drop it. But it only got worse. That same day, around 3 in the afternoon, the receptionist handed me something. She said my daughter had dropped it off for me. It was a small folder, basically a photo album. Inside were old pictures of Maddie and me. Most were from when she was little. Me holding her in the park. Her at her first recital. A few Christmas morning snapshots. She had printed them out, placed them in plastic sleeves, and attached a note on the front that said, "In case you forgot." I didn't take it home. I left it on my desk until the end of the day, then locked it in a drawer. I haven't reached out to her. I haven't touched the album. I haven't even looked past the first few pages. I'm not interested in nostalgia. That version of her, the little girl in those photos, doesn't exist anymore. And now that all the lies and manipulation have left her completely alone, she's still doing the same thing, but with me. Well, it's not going to work. I'm not going to let it. With help from HR, I blocked her access to my workplace. Security knows she's not allowed to see me or be on the premises. My attorney sent her a formal letter stating that any future contact, direct or indirect, will be treated as harassment. I told my sister not to contact me again if it's about Maddie. I hope that's enough. Update 4. It's been a little over a year since I last saw Maddie in person. That time she showed up at my job with her baby and started telling people I was her father again, as if nothing had happened. After that, I made it clear I didn't want any more contact. I updated my workplace security info, filed the necessary paperwork, and moved on. I haven't heard anything from her directly since. But 2 weeks ago, something else arrived in my mailbox. It was a thick envelope sent by a legal firm. Inside were scanned documents, a written statement, and a USB drive. Attached was a cover letter from a private investigator hired by Dennis's eldest son, the same one who's been trying to untangle the mess Carla left behind after her death, and the lies she and Dennis told. Apparently, they found a storage unit Carla had rented in another city. Inside, they discovered old computers, financial paperwork, loose photos, and a box full of journals. In that box were handwritten pages and audio recordings. I didn't listen to the recordings, but the written statements were more than enough. Carla had recorded herself venting about everything: the divorce, the custody battle, even her second marriage. Some pages described how she manipulated the situation with Maddie during the trial. On one, she wrote plainly that she was coaching Maddie on what to say about me to help secure the restraining order. She wrote about how she lied in court about things I never did, just to gain total control and move forward with Dennis without interference. She also admitted that Dennis didn't agree with her at first, but that she slowly manipulated him, turning him against his own family and cutting ties with his children, so that Maddie could end up with everything. That lines up with what Dennis's son said during the lawsuit, that Dennis had been planning to change his will but never got the chance. Apparently, Carla used guilt, financial control, and threats to keep Dennis under her thumb and make sure Maddie stayed in the will. And judging by the tone of the journal entries, Carla never seemed to regret any of it. The investigator asked if I'd be willing to testify or provide a sworn statement now for a new case against Maddie. The materials were going to be submitted as part of an appeal related to Dennis's estate. I told him no. I said I had nothing more to add, which was true. There was nothing left I could contribute. He asked if he could use my previous testimony from the first trial. I said yes. I thought that would be the end of it. Then, 5 days ago, I got an email from Maddie. It was the first time she had contacted me directly in over a year. The message was classic narcissism, long, dramatic, and full of self-reflection that felt performative at best. She said someone had shown her copies of Carla's journals and recordings. She said she didn't know what to believe anymore, if she even remembered things the way they really happened, or if her memories had been manipulated. She said she no longer understood what was real, who her mother really was, or who I really was. She asked if I could meet with her to help her understand the truth. I didn't reply. And I won't. Because here's what I know. I spent years trying to be part of her life. I went through legal channels. I was patient. I wrote letters. Emails. I showed up at events I wasn't invited to, just to show support from a distance. Every attempt was blocked, erased, or used against me. She called me a stranger in court. She told others I was emotionally unstable. When she got married, she let another man walk her down the aisle and captioned a wedding photo saying he was the only father she ever had. I wasn't even mentioned. She showed up at my office with a baby like that would soften me. Played the grandfather card, thinking it would score her pity points. And now that the truth about Carla has come out, she wants me to fill in the blanks. But that's not my job anymore. I didn't raise the version of Maddie that exists today. I wasn't allowed to. Carla made sure of that. Maddie has Carla's journals. If she wants to know who her mother really was, they're right there. If she wants to understand what happened with Dennis's family, they're more than willing to talk. And if she wants to know who I am, she has a dozen photo albums from her childhood that can remind her. And if that's not enough, she'll have to make peace with what she doesn't know. I hope Dennis's sons are able to recover their inheritance. They've been working on it for a long time. I don't know them, but I know they deserve it more than my daughter ever did. My daughter isn't just facing a civil trial over the estate. She's also facing one for manipulation, for trying to take it all. And that second case is a bit more serious, because from what I understand, she could face prison time if found guilty. I don't know what will happen to her child. In the little interaction we had, she never mentioned a father. Update 5. A lot of people in the comments have asked about the verdicts in the various trials involving my daughter, so I've decided to make one final post to close the loop. I'll also include a few details about her child. Dennis's inheritance was voided, and in the end, the rights of his biological children prevailed. Carla didn't actually have anything to leave anyone. She was completely financially dependent on Dennis, and since she passed away after him, she didn't inherit anything that could be passed on to her daughter. I don't know what kind of people Dennis's children are. Maybe they didn't deserve his money either. But at least I know one thing for sure, my daughter didn't deserve it at all. What she did deserve were charges for manipulating Dennis during the final stage of his life in order to get the bulk of his estate. That very manipulation was part of what pushed him towards suicide. After her mother's death, Maddie wanted Dennis to take care of her and her baby. She expected him to give her a monthly allowance, money for nothing. She even threatened to tell everyone he was the baby's father. I don't know if anyone ever discovered the real identity of the father, but I know for certain it wasn't Dennis. Still, she tried to use that lie as a weapon to damage his reputation. That, on top of the grief from losing Carla, led Dennis to take his own life. Because of that, his sons, along with a prosecutor, worked to make sure Maddie faced legal consequences. She's now serving a 5-year prison sentence for the various charges filed against her. As a result, Child Protective Services intervened and removed custody of her son. He was placed with Carla's extended family to be raised. That's all I have to share. I don't even know which prison Maddie was transferred to after the sentencing.